Hello and welcome to the latest podcast from Exeter Expertise. Today we're talking to Professor Fiona Charnley, who is the co-director of the Exeter Centre for Circular Economy. We're going to be looking at where we are in circular economy in light of the current COVID-19 difficulties. And in particular, we'll be looking at the plans for the establishment of the National Interdisciplinary Circular Economy Hub. Fiona, good morning.
Hi Toby, great to see you.
And you, thank you for joining us. If we could start with a relatively simple question to help those listening to us understand a bit more about the circular economy. How would you describe what a circular economy approach is?
Relatively simple question, but not such a simple answer, because there are many definitions to a circular economy, spanning from more sort of traditional recycling or waste management all the way through to a complete transformation of our economy. In fact, one academic publication cites over 100 definitions. However, to me, the most useful way of looking at a circular economy is from a practical perspective. So the CE essentially is an innovation framework and a set of strategies through which to rethink the value and often uncaptured or underutilized value within our resources, materials and products. So one of the key principles of a circular economy is to keep products, particularly technical or man-made products, at their highest value for as long as possible throughout their life cycle, and to ensure that anything that can't be reused, such as food, for example, is cascaded and returned to the ecosystem as nature intended. And I often find that value is a rather nebulous term, so it's often useful to take an example. So if we think of a car, on average, it's only used for between 3 and 5% of its entire life cycle. The rest of the time it's spent sitting on your driveway, outside your place of work, or even on the M25 in a traffic jam. And a car is designed to be driven. And so the 95% of a car's life cycle when it's not being driven is wasted value. And the circular economy encourages us to identify this wasted value and implement strategies such as reuse, remanufacturing, sharing economy to create new value for individuals, businesses and the economy.
Would you describe it then as, is recycling part of this? The circular economy is really about the whole economic system is what we're talking about.
It is, yes. And there are different perspectives on recycling. However, it is a key component of our system. I think with recycling, what the circular economy encourages us to do is to reuse, refurbish and maintain products as much as possible before we move to recycling, because ultimately recycling is very energy and resource intensive. So we don't want to do that, but for some products such as plastics, recycling is currently the best option.
In my introduction, we mentioned the setting up of the National Interdisciplinary Circular Economy Hub, which you're very much involved in. Can you tell us a bit about that?
So the Circular Economy Hub, or CE Hub as we refer to it, brings together academics, industry practitioners, policymakers and civic society stakeholders who are committed to delivering circular economy research innovation in a systemic and joined up way. So the aim of the CE Hub is to establish the scientific evidence, tools and methods necessary to support the implementation of circular economy, knowledge sharing and collaboration at a national scale. So the CE Hub is funded by UKRI, which stands for UK Research and Innovation, and is part of a much wider programme. The programme will fund essentially the CE Hub and up to 5 centres of excellence, all of which will focus on a particular resource flow, such as metals, plastics, food or textiles, for example. And at the moment, we're currently in phase 1 of this £30 million investment by UKRI. And what we have been doing over the last 6 months is consulting with the wider circular economy community to identify the key challenges to CE implementation at scale across academia, business and policy, to co-create the vision for the hub. And so that vision, we've submitted a proposal and it's currently going through peer review. And so ultimately the whole programme, the hub and the 5 centres will kick off in January 2021.
I guess from the sound of that, it's a great initiative in that it's bringing the academic community and business and industry together. So can you talk a bit about how that partnership will work between the academic side and the business side?
Sure. So over the last 6 months, we've engaged with nearly 1,000 individuals and 180 universities and industrial and government organisations to co-create this vision for the hub. And as part of it, we have set out a comprehensive user engagement strategy, which covers a number of different activities through which other organisations, business and policy, can engage with the 5 centres and also the hub. So, for example, as part of the hub, we will be making £500,000 available to support seed funding of research and innovation projects. And through this, we'll be able to particularly encourage partnerships between academia, business and policy. And we're really focusing on the involvement of early career professionals as well. The hub aims to establish a knowledge platform, and this element will engage with business and develop sector-specific roadmaps, for example, to identify some of the key drivers, metrics and skills required for the transition towards a circular economy. So the hub and the whole programme is very practical, and we're really encouraging this interdisciplinary engagement between academia, business and policy. And
in terms of what success will look like, what is the vision of the hub?
So fundamentally, through the CE Hub, we hope to achieve a systemic change in the way that resources are used, valued and measured across the UK. And what that means practically is we've designed a vision to try and achieve this around 5 different pillars, which might help to kind of explain what we're trying to achieve. So our first pillar is that we want to develop the UK's first circular economy observatory to identify some of the key metrics and indicators necessary for such a transformational shift in resource use, and also to inform future decision making around industrial strategy, policy and research. Secondly, we want to create a circular economy knowledge platform to coordinate state-of-the-art knowledge, tools and methods to support successful CE implementation. So our third pillar is innovation and impact, and this consists of a portfolio of mechanisms to enable collaboration and the acceleration of practical solutions. Fourthly, and perhaps most importantly, we'll build an inclusive circular economy community to encourage, enable and empower individuals to become part of this diverse and accessible circular future. And finally, under our fifth pillar, we want to identify the skills, capabilities and career pathways necessary to enable the development of a circular economy. So as you can see, the programme is really ambitious and we really want to bring about change at a systemic level, but we've tried to break that down into practical steps so that we can actually start to deliver early impact across business, academia and policy.
And in terms of where we are now in the world, obviously we're in the grip of this pandemic, and that is where the focus of government, business, in fact a lot of us are at the moment. So how has that impacted a circular economy approach? Are there some benefits, and what are some of the kind of disadvantages at the moment?
Yeah, I mean, you're right. COVID-19 has had unprecedented effects on society, the economy and the environment. And actually, I feel that it's created a laser focus on some of the most pertinent and complex issues that we're trying to address within the circular economy and the hub. So, I mean, I think the circular economy approach presents a unique opportunity to move towards a new economic model where resilience and effectiveness is created at a systemic level. And some people and authors have referred to this opportunity as building back better. I mean, the pandemic has brought about dramatic change that actually we had been previously unable to achieve. So if you take the workplace, for example, new technologies are available to support working from home and have brought about new norms for organisations who have maintained or even increased levels of productivity, whilst at the same time slashing overhead costs and environmental and economic impacts associated with global travel. On another side of things, disruptions to our global supply chains have caused chaos all over the world, but actually have presented opportunities for local production and entrepreneurship, which actually promote more effective use and reuse of resources. So I think now the challenge is to build upon these changes and create a new normal where growth is decoupled from unsustainable use of natural resources. Picking up on the second part of your question and some of the challenges that we've seen as well as the opportunities, I think progress towards a circular economy has had some significant setbacks as a result of the pandemic, which will be challenging to overcome. So one of these is our reliance on single-use plastic, for example, in protecting workers and patients. And this has magnified our resilience on finite resources. I also imagine that the progress that we were making towards reuse will have had some serious setbacks. Consumers already have a reluctance to reuse certain items, and our necessary focus on cleanliness and health and safety, I'm sure, will have amplified this. So I think, there are some significant challenges and setbacks. However, I really think that there's an opportunity to build back better, and I'm confident that a circular economy is a good approach to be able to do this.
We've talked about the role of academia, we've talked about the role of business, particularly in relation to the C Hub. But when we actually come down to the individual level for someone listening to this podcast and what they can practically do to help move towards a circular economy, what are some of the advice you would give on that?
So at an individual level, I think we need to be smarter and more informed about our purchases. There's loads now of organisations who are doing the hard work for us and putting the thinking into making products more circular, both in their packaging and their ingredients. And I think actually seeking out those organisations and their purchases is one way that individuals can start to change their behaviour. I think ideally we should be cutting down on our use of plastic and particularly single-use plastic. Again, there are some great solutions out there that do help us, particularly in the home, to reduce our reliance on single-use plastic, because it really is a significant challenge. Also, there are more and more organisations that are providing great knowledge and examples of circular economy in practice, both at an individual level, but also at an organisational level. So through the hub, for example, we'll be running podcasts. We have our website, so people can find out more about what the circular economy means. But there's all sorts of other organisations, the Circular Economy Club, the Knowledge Transfer Network, the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, who are all doing some fantastic things around circular economy and have great examples of where we can really make a change at an individual level.
That's a brilliant point to end on, Fiona. Thank you ever so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.